Who is ready to start our third brewing of Coffee with Coaches? Raise your coffee mugs in the air. Let's see them. Let's see them. All right, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I am Natalie Wickelfuss, and I have the privilege and pleasure of serving as the athletics director at Oberlin College. Thank you for joining us this morning. You know, it is what it is kind of a year. You know, there's a lot of things out of our control, but our sports seasons may have been thwarted by the pandemic. But despite the coronavirus being a formidable opponent, we are growing forward. So we may be grieving the loss of game days, but we are relying on creativity as we look for safe ways to replicate the joy and growth that comes with competition and being surrounded by our supportive teammates, colleagues, and alumni. That's so many of you. So our athletics department continues to come together in the spirit of collaboration and shared responsibility to make educational moments happen for our student athletes, our staff, and our campus community. It is clear that the protocols that have implemented are effective. We are safe, we are healthy, we are mostly happy. For practices, coaches submit daily practice plans noting each person in attendance. They're cleaning every piece of equipment that is used. They practice in small groups following re-socialization guidelines. And we are thriving as much as we can, you know, in a global health pandemic at a high academic institution with a lot of, you know, very few disruptions, I could say. But just as we are building leadership skills daily on the field, pool, court, Zoom rooms, we have become equally invested in helping building the skills necessary to transform our athletics community, where people are seen, heard, valued, cared for, and respected for them full selves. Over the past months, our department has met with our Black student athletes, alumni, community members, and colleagues across the nation to think collaboratively about the role and responsibilities of an athletic department in a time of social change. Weekly, we are engaged in discussions and taking action to create the kind of substantive change we hope will achieve equality and help us deepen our ability to be an anti-racist athletics department. We are listening, we are learning, and we are here for it all. So, but before we jump into today's conversation, I'd like to invite you all back into the Zoom room on Wednesday, February 17th for a very special event. It is called Oberlin and the WNBA, a full court press for social change. So we will be talking to a WNBA player, a director of player personnel development, just about how the league has pushed forward in a time and being leaders in a social justice movement. So we'll share that information in the chat for you to register. It's going to be an awesome night. And now I'd like to introduce our head barista for today's conversation, the co-chair of our Department Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Task Force. She is also our head women's basketball coach. It is Stephanie Dunmeyer. Steph, the Zoom room is yours.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you so much. And thank you to our amazing panelists who have joined us and to everyone that's joined us this morning. We have a lot of questions we're going to get through with the panel. If other questions come up, please feel free to throw them in the chat. If we have time at the end, we'll come back to those and everything. To start out, I guess, let's have everybody on the panel. I know everybody got a bio, but let's just do quick introductions and then we can jump into the first question. So Anna, you're next to me on the screen. So if I can throw it to you first, we'll do that.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. First, thank you all for being here. My name is Anna Richardson. I'm an admissions counselor at Oberlin, and I did go to Oberlin, so graduated in 2018. I was given the very, very special position of athletic designee for inclusion and diversity within the department, which is great. Obviously, I was an athlete here as well. Just looking forward to any questions that you do have. I'm originally from Eugene, Oregon, but Ohio is basically my home now. So. And I'll pass it to Cheyenne.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cheyenne. I graduated from Oberlin in 2020, so this past May. Currently, right now, I'm applying to med school, and I know I'll be starting med school in the fall of 2021. Thank you, Nate. What else can I say? Oh, yeah. At Oberlin, I had the privilege of playing under Coach Dunmeyer my senior year on the women's basketball team, so woohoo.
All right, I guess I'm next. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name is Kofi Asari. I'm a third-year biology major at Oberlin presently. I'm also on the men's track and field team, and I have the honor of being one of the co-chairs of the Black Student Athlete Group. So this calls are really important to me. It's really special. So I'm happy to answer any questions and give you all a sense of the things that we've been able to do this semester.
Awesome. So to start it out, it's obviously Black History Month. So let's start just by taking some time to talk about who you look to, who some of your inspirations are, maybe what they've taught you and what they can teach us. Whoever wants to start, you can just jump on in.
Okay, I'll start because we're looking back and forth. If you could like make eye contact on the Zoom room, that's what we were doing. Yeah, so I definitely find inspiration from a lot of different Black figures over the time, but definitely some of mine comes directly from my family. My family is really involved in the Eugene community. I've been working with the NAACP since I was a young kid. My uncle, who's basically my father, is the president of the NAACP in Eugene, as well as being involved in some nonprofit organizations called Kids for the Culture, which has to do with really helping students in predominantly white areas like Eugene that has 0.3% of the population being Black, where middle schoolers can actually see people who look like them, then get education that is for them. So a lot of my inspiration comes from looking at like the kids and understanding like these are things that I miss and things that can make their lives better. So honestly, when I look at like Kofi and I look at Cheyenne and those folks that came after me and built the Black student athlete group, that really gives me more motivation and more fuel. When you are looking at like big Black historical figures, I definitely do get a lot of inspiration from Malcolm X. He obviously, I'm not a proponent for violence or anything like that, but I do believe that sometimes you have to make people uncomfortable and you have to have those hard conversations and you can kind of be unapologetic about it. And so he definitely is someone that I think is really big into getting people to move forward, to see these huge movements that we're having of folks really peacefully protesting, but also just pressing institutions and folks like that forward. So lots of inspiration from all around.
Yeah, I think I can go next. I think to start, two people that are like a huge inspiration for me, I definitely start with my parents. I think it's because like growing up, just like seeing the way that they work hard and all the things that they've done for me, my sisters, my family, it's like you really get to see like what sacrifice looks like, and you really get to see like what it takes to raise your family and teach them valuable lessons and things that they need to know. One of the things that I was always told as a kid is like there's always room for improvement, and there's always room to grow and like be better. I think that where I am now is because of that, because I was sort of told that, and I've been able to, lean on them and see the way that they have navigated life and all the challenges and obstacles that are thrown, especially at, Black people and just like people of color. So those are definitely two people for me that, if they were here right now, like I would definitely tell them that, but they're home, so I'll call them later. And then in terms of like historical figures, I would definitely say Martin Luther King Jr., just in the sense of like leadership, like really standing up for what you believe in, trying to fight for like an equitable society, equitable worlds, a place where everybody is treated equally and, everybody has a fair chance. And I think that especially being at Oberlin, that's really important to me, just because that's sort of the foundation of like where we go to school. That's foundation of, how things sort of started. So I think given the present times now, that's a really big part of like why we do so much work, or why like it's almost like I'm never satisfied with what's going on, because I know that there can always be more done. I know that we need more leaders and we need more people that can stand up for, what they believe in and for what's right. So those are definitely three like inspirations for me, just in the sense of like learning how to fight for yourself, fight for the people that look like you, and then continue to fight even when you have things that are going great, and things that are going well, because it's also, you don't want to get complacent too, like there's always some things to do. There's always some changes that can be made.
So for me, like Kofi and Anna, I think it's also just important for me to acknowledge my family, particularly my mom. I'm thankful for her raising me and everything, but she's taught me a lot of things throughout my life. And I think that the most important things I've learned from her is just to be myself and to embrace my journey, and just to really identify with my identity and be comfortable in it and love it, all aspects of it. And I think just also to adding to that, she really just taught me to use my passion. So for me, my passion is to serve others through medicine, and just to be where I am right now and to be able to follow my dreams with her supporting me is something that really means a lot to me. And in terms of historical figures, one person that I really do look up to and admire is Rebecca Lee Crumper, who was the first African-American woman to earn an MD degree in the United States in 1864. And she used her degree and her skills to serve those who were enslaved who otherwise wouldn't get the care that they needed. And I think that, is very, significant in itself, but I think that connects with me because the reason why I'm entering medicine is to serve underserved communities. And, some of those communities consist of Black and Brown people, but just to use my passion and use my skills to serve those that need it is something that I admire in her and something that I look to reflect in myself. So that's definitely why she's one of my inspirations, as well as my mom.
Thank you to everyone for sharing those. I'm going to throw it right back to you again, Cheyenne, as one of the founding members of the Black Student Athlete Group. When we talk about community, we know how important community is at Oberlin, and finding a community and or a variety of communities in which you belong and feel supported just makes the college experience that much more meaningful. One of those communities has always been the community of Black student athletes, even before the official founding of the group. But if you could just touch on the various communities that you connected with while at Oberlin, and then talk about how the founding of the Black Student Athlete Group came about and just the process involved in that.
Okay, so to start off, I think I want to acknowledge that I think Oberlin is unique in the fact that there's so many communities in one. And I say that as an example of like the Black community is multifaceted. There are, like you said, the Black student athletes, there are Black STEM students, there are just Black students in general. There's so many communities within one that I really appreciate. But also at Oberlin, I had the opportunity to be within the STEM community. So people who look like me, people who don't look like me, but we bonded because of the material that we were learning, the classes that we were taking, and our passion for science and math and things of that nature. I think also just the local Oberlin community, I was really able to get connected with in terms of people who didn't go to the school, but people who, came to our basketball games, showed up for discussion panels and things of that matter, which is definitely an important aspect of Oberlin. So in terms of the Black Student Athlete Group, it was actually created with me and a couple of my other friends who are also Black student athletes. And we just, towards the end of our senior year, we're just reflecting on our experiences at Oberlin and, just realizing that we all had similar experiences in terms of our identity and the intersection between our identity and playing sports at Oberlin. So we wanted to really create a leaving legacy for students that will come after us to help them further navigate Oberlin in a more, whether that be better manner or have them have more network opportunities coming in, kind of helping pave the way for others to follow behind. So I think for me personally, I'm a big believer in leaving things better than how you left it. So I think that the Black Student Athlete Group is one aspect of that, to make people's journey and experience at Oberlin better.
Awesome, thank you for that. This is kind of to everyone again, when we talk about, in addition to creating that united community of for Black student athletes on Oberlin's campus, the Black Student Athlete Group's mission also focuses on providing a voice and an organization dedicated to promoting Black student athletes and their success. I guess, how have you been able to make sure that your voices are heard? And while there's always more work to be done, what are some of the positive changes that you've seen since the founding of the group?
I think I can start here. So in terms of ways that we've made our voices heard, so when some of us took over the group when Cheyenne and the other founders graduated, one of the first things that we wanted to do was create an intake form. And the goal of the form was to basically send it out to the returning Black student athletes, but also to ones from the past, and basically just get a sense of what their experiences were, right? And the main part was just, doing that, we were able to actually see maybe on this team, someone had a great experience, right? Great coaches, great environment, everything like that. Maybe in this aspect, somebody didn't have the best experience. Maybe they didn't feel supported. They didn't feel heard. So putting together that form, that was helpful for us, because it's you can't do anything without knowing what it is you actually need to do or accomplish, right? So part of that was if we figure out okay, these are people's experiences, these are what people before us even went through as well, then we have a framework to how to address these issues, right? And address the things that we want to change, that we want to make better on campus. So that was really big. And as time went on, it's just, trying to check in with people, trying to do different things. One of the biggest things that we always do is we leave the floor open for our group members. So we're hey, if there's something that you want to get off your chest or you want to address with us, if something is off, whatever it is, please feel free to tell us, because then we can at least work towards it, right? Having Anna as well in the room with us is important because that's somebody else that works in the college and it's also a familiar face, right? So it's like, hey, if something comes up that you don't want to tell me, you can go to Anna, we can work it out. In terms of positives, just like having this, I think that as time's going on, it's as simple as just, having a community for us. I think that Coach Dunbar, you said it earlier, like over time, Black student athletes, like we've sort of been connected, like we've sort of been a group, like we've known each other, but there was never an established community. There's never an established like knowing of, hey, like we have shared experiences, we go through similar things. If we need to get things off our chest, like we can come to this space, we can do this, we can do X, Y, Z. I think this year, given how discombobulated things are, with school and just life and the pandemic, everything of that nature, I think it was even more important because now we have a centralized space where it's like, hey, if we all are truly going through something, if we're all truly, taken aback or taken down by what's going on around us, like we now have a spot where we can collectively come together and say, hey, this is how we all feel, or this is how a few people feel. What do you all think? Or this is things that we want to do. Like, let's all come together. So I think that was something that probably existed like, unconsciously in the past. Now we have an actual like group and place to do this. And the goal is that this continues on even after me, what Cheyenne said, I fully agree, where it's like everything that we're doing now, as much as like it's important now, like I'm a forward thinker. So I'm always thinking like, how can this be better for the next Kofi Asari, for the next Cheyenne Arthur, for the next Anna Richardson? Because that's the biggest part, like making the experience better for the people that come after you.
Yeah, and I can add, from being a student athlete and now kind of like sitting in the position of AD/ID, I think a lot of things have changed within like communication within overall the department and student athletes. I think it's very normal for Oberlin students to feel like, the administration is like pulling things behind our backs or like not telling us this and that. And I think with the Black student athlete group, they really took this space and they said, hey, we want to have these conversations. We want to have contact with these people. And it's worked really, really well. I'm working with our working group. They get to sit in on those. I get to meet with them. I get to go to their meetings. They meet with Natalie. And I think that there's been some trust that's been established between athletes feeling like, hey, if something goes wrong, like I have people I can go to and I can speak up about it. And when I was a student, there was definitely still that distrust, but there was no way to connect the two together. Like if I thought that something was going weird, I might like talk to my other Black student athlete with me and like, gossip about it, or like, oh, I wish this would change. But now there are things that are in place that are really structured in a nice way that, Natalie can say things that she needs to say to keep it, that everyone understands what's going on, as well as the Black student athlete group really pushing the bounds of what is thought of, what is normal, and also adding to the department in general. So I think that's definitely a really big positive piece. And a lot of it has to do with the Black student athlete group and also Natalie just really being willing to listen and being willing to have all those different touch points with them as well.
And also just to add on to that, in terms of addressing the positive changes that I've seen since the founding of the Black Student Athlete Group, I think it's really, it just kind of makes me proud to see like the mission and the purpose of the Black Student Athlete Group come alive under the leadership of Kofi and the other executive board members. They've hosted alumni panels, listening sessions, discussions, things like this, I think are really important conversations to be had. And just to see that I was a part of something that kind of started and got the ball moving on things like this in terms of creating the Black Student Athlete Group is something that really means a lot to me. So I think that just being able to see this continue to grow, continuing to see the collaboration that the athletics department has with the Black Student Athlete Group is just something amazing. So.
Anna, I know you've already touched on a little bit of kind of your role as the athletics diversity and inclusion designee. Some of it is in your bio as well. So I don't know if there's a ton of detail to add, but I wanted to throw it back to you a little bit just to talk a little bit more in detail about kind of your role and even the vision that you see for your role as we move forward.
Yeah, so this is a new position. I'm very happy to be in it here. It's actually a new position throughout the NCAA. So we are part of many folks that are adding this, but we're definitely in the earlier end of folks that implemented this. Basically, my role is to make sure that communication is happening between the administration, within athletics, and to the students. And I also function as a person where, say, something strange happens on your team with the coach, you don't feel as comfortable maybe calling out your coach about it, but I'm the person that you can come to, and I have ways. I'm connected to the Title IX office that I can start a report if I need to. We can also do one-on-one training, or just having those small conversations with coaches to make sure that our students are feeling comfortable, they're feeling empowered, and they're getting everything that they need from their coaches. There's more things that will be coming up. The position is definitely developing, but I do sit on a group. I sit on the working group. I also sit with BSAG. I meet with Becky Mosley in Title IX, and we've done a lot of brainstorming of things that we could do. So things that might be coming up, we've been thinking about is figuring out how to get athletes as well as coaches training on how to respond to microaggressions, or how to take like if a student comes to you and says, hey, this made me feel uncomfortable, the things that you can do as a coach to feel comfortable dealing with that without having that awkward space. So it's really about building trust there. Another thing that we're really looking forward to is just giving coaches just more support on what do your students need when they come in, and how can you keep them connected. A lot of folks have people coming from all over, first gen, low income, et cetera. And so those students they need a community. And I think the Black Student Athlete Group is a nice connection there. Obviously in admissions, I do multicultural recruitment as well. And I work with athletics. So it's a nice little hinge there where I get to see them coming in, I get to see their applications. And then when they come into our actual school, they have a network with the Black Student Athlete Group, but also me as a resource along with all the other many things that are going on. So definitely things that are adding and moving forward with the ADID position, but definitely excited to see what the future is going to bring for us.
And that's a great segue, actually, just to jump into the recruiting portion of it. What's been amazing, is the Black Student Athlete Group has just embraced assisting coaches with recruiting Black student athletes, and including that means offering to host them on overnight visits. Obviously, due to the pandemic, our visits have looked a lot different, and that has not been an option this year. However, despite that lack of in-person interaction, BSAG has graciously hosted, I think it's 3 Zoom panels so far, targeting Black recruits and their families. I know in particular, we've had a phenomenal experience with our student athletes and our recruits that have attended those, 2 of them, Marley and Bree, both ED, they're locked in, they just loved it. I mean, it was such a positive experience for their families and for them. So I guess specifically because Kofi and Anna, you were both kind of involved in those. Can you talk about how you ran those sessions and just the different topics that you guys covered?
No, yeah, for sure. So I'll start and then Anna fill in any gaps. But basically, we had 3 sessions. The first 2 were sort of just hey, get to know us, and some of the resources and things at Oberlin. So once again, right, having this group is really nice because outside of our executive board, we have plenty of, Black student athletes that were willing to help. So in those first 2 sessions, we actually had even more people than we probably needed, but it was nice because as a recruit, you get to see people that look like you and people that are willing to talk about their experiences, what Oberlin has been like for them, how they've utilized different resources, things of that nature. So that was nice to kind of just be able to reflect and, tell people that could be coming in, hey, these are some things that you could expect to see. These are some things that, we've seen and experienced. So that was a really nice part about that. It was also a chance for us to ask them questions, try to figure out who they are, almost as a sneak peek for if they do come in, right? And then the third session was a little bit smaller, but we were able to bring in Dev White, who's also one of the founders and was Shy's year. And Anna was in, as well as Chris Donaldson, who's our faculty advisor. And that session was more towards hey, we have people from, different class years, different times at Oberlin. And we're all here to just talk about what it means to just be a Black student athlete here at Oberlin, right? Both past and present. That session I think was super important because that was open up not only to just the recruits, but to their families as well. So then, their families were able to see us. They're able to get a sense of these are Oberlin folk. This is what Oberlin brings to the table. And that was really important just because I remember when I was a recruit, the biggest thing you want to know is just why Oberlin, why Oberlin, what can Oberlin do for me? What was my experience going to be like? And at the end of the day, it's like, as a recruit, I had those questions and my parents even have more, like, is my kid going to be taken care of? Like, who's going to be there to support them? Like X, Y, Z. I think in that session, especially, we were able to show them like, hey, this is a group of 6 people and there's way more, there's way more people that are here to support you, are here to, be your family, be your community, like show you things that we've gone through, like show you how times are changing as well, because, excuse me, that's the biggest part. Like everybody that's come through, we all have different experiences, like what I've seen at Oberlin isn't the same as what Anna or maybe Cheyenne have seen, but that's the part where it's like all of us coming together collectively, we're able to show that to somebody else that may be coming in, right? Like, hey, we all have different experiences. We all have seen different things. You may come in and see something completely different as well, but at least like there's this group here that you can lean on. There's a larger network of folks, whether it's current athletes or, the coaches or, alumni, whoever it is that are here to support you. So all that being said, it was sort of like another way for us to step outside the box. This year we've had to do a whole bunch of things differently, given like, no seasons, competitions, whatever it may be. But it's also been like positive changes, right? Like, it's not like we're sitting around like doing nothing. Like we're almost doing things that in my opinion, are more important than, just going to a track meet on the weekend and then coming home. Like we're actually able to impact somebody's decision, impact, what they may be getting into for the next 4 years.
I think Kofi definitely hit everything that we did there. The only other thing we did was in the beginning, we had each panelist show like a photo that was connected to Oberlin in some way. So they kind of like told a story connected to Oberlin. And I think that the audience really just liked, like, it was very honest. You could tell the people that were there just were there to welcome them. And in those first 2 panels that we did, they were a little bit smaller, but we had like 30 of the BSAG members come out to be like, let me help recruit these kids. And I think that enthusiasm and that show of community, even virtually, is something that's really powerful. Oberlin is like, either you know it or you don't know it. And for those folks who really don't know it that well, I think when you have such different people doing such different things, it really is powerful, and it drives home that point of like, you can do anything at Oberlin, like, here, let me show you. So yes, having those students is really important. And I just love working with them, really easy to work with.
And Kofi, you made a great point. I just wanted to touch on too. I think it's become so evident for our working group and just the coaching staff as a whole. It's been a crazy, weird year, but the work that we've done as a group, and I think being able to connect with you guys and learn from you and the leadership in your group has been tremendous, and so much even more meaningful than a traditional season in so many ways. So just we thank you for all of that. I thank Ray for his leadership, Natalie for her leadership as well. Another just great thing that you guys have done as a group, and Kofi, maybe you can speak to this a little bit more if anybody wants to add, but I know you guys already hosted an alumni panel and you have an upcoming alumni panel in the works. How important has building these connections with alumni been to the overall mission of your group? And just kind of share with us, I guess, the feedback you've received from alumni and the response in terms of their willingness to connect with everyone.
No, yeah, awesome. I can definitely do that. I mean, to start off, I remember I talked to, you all about this in one of our meetings. And I think especially like Coach App and I touched on it too, but the biggest thing for me going into this year was that, we have so many great alumni, so many people that have done so many major things, both at Oberlin and outside of it. And the biggest challenge for me was the fact that like, they felt like strangers to me, like it felt like I had no ties, no connections, or that was very hard to get in touch with them. Whether that was, by design or like just by chance, but it just seemed like there was a lot of hurdles and obstacles to get there. So this year, in the fashion of like, hey, let's think outside the box, like given the year, like we're already saying it is what it is, let's work what we have, right? So part of it was, how can we connect with people that, once again, maybe have similar experiences as us or had different ones, right? So the first panel that we had, it was simply just like, hey, we brought in 10 different alumni, and they were able to talk about their experiences being Black students at like Oberlin and also being Black student athletes, within the department, whether they had good experiences, bad, what their majors were, X, Y, Z. And then they also were able to talk about what they've been doing, since leaving Oberlin, whether it's like what their current careers are, past endeavors that they may have done, ways that they're still in touch with Oberlin, things of that nature. And once again, I can only speak for myself, but I think that it's been very powerful because it's such a strong network, and it's such a strong network that I think to a lot of people seems like underground or it's like hidden, but in reality, it's not. I think it's just a matter of like, how do you go about trying to connect with these people? How do you go about trying to find them and actually like getting them to come in? Because what we've seen, every single person I reached out to, whether it's an email, whether it's a LinkedIn message, Wiser, like I was never on Oberlin Wiser and I was on there rigorously last semester, but it's like being on all those platforms, like you'd be surprised how many Oberlin alumni are simply just like, hey, Kofi, hey, Malika, thanks for reaching out. I would love to come talk. I would love to connect. Malika and our Google calendars were booked like through September, October, like talking to different alumni, getting a sense of their experiences, like asking them if they want to be a part of our directory that we put together. Connecting with alumni as well. What you really see is that they're so willing to just lend a hand. We literally have 2 alumni that are actually like the alumni liaisons for us, Amber Coleman Mortley and Justin Griffiths. And when I tell you, like the 2 of them from the jump were so eager to be like, hey, like we are here for whatever you need. They've sat in on board meetings with us. They've given us their takes. They've given us ideas on how we can further connect with different alumni and, use them all as resources. I think with the alumni panels as well, afterwards, like after the first one, and we have a second one, like you said, Coach Dunmeyer, on the 21st even. And after the first one, like we stayed after a few minutes with the ones that came, and they all were like asking us even more questions like, oh, like, is there going to be a follow-up? Like, how can we reconnect with people? Like, we had so many great conversations. We didn't even get a chance to ask them fully, like, about them. And like, it seemed like all these things thrown at us. And I remember Mike and I were talking after, like, whoa, like, we thought they were just going to come and go. Like, thanks for having me. Like, I'm out, right? But the way that they still wanted to be engaged and they still wanted to keep up and like, they still just showed an interest in us. It really shows you, like, time and time again, like people that come to Oberlin, like it's about, who you're with and it's about who you want to support. And that's a lot of what we've seen. So going into this next one, it's more geared towards like careers, right? So what we were able to do is take intake once again from our group, because everything that we do, like, it's not necessarily just for us, but it's for the collective Black student athlete group, right? So we're able to ask people, hey, like, what are some potential career areas or interests that you have? What are some things that you maybe want to do? If you're undecided, that's also fine. And we were able to, craft another group of 10 people that we thought would be best to come and talk about their career trajectory, things that they've done, the resources that they used, and really just use it as a networking session, right? Because networking is already important. Then you factor in, it's a pandemic. How much are we doing in terms of, once again, athletics and other things? So there needs to be something that fills that void, right? There needs to be something that people can lean on instead of the typical, like, I'm going to hop on a bus, go to, Ohio Wesleyan, like all that kind of stuff. So having this event is important for us to, get to know them and for them to also get to know us. And I'm hoping that it's something we can continuously do, continuously build upon it, keep coming up with more sessions, keep coming up with better things to talk about and discuss. But it's been great. That's been the highlight for me. Like, I literally hopped on a call one day just to talk to 2 alum, like, and chat, I don't really do that. That's something I really do, but I was excited to, because, I know them and they were eager to talk to me and they're eager to be involved and all that kind of stuff.
Awesome. And shifting kind of to that career area, Cheyenne, I kind of have a specific question for you. Just as you prepare to enter medical school, I know, we've talked before and you've mentioned how it can be hard to find people that look like you as role models in the medical field, but how has that feeling of underrepresentation, specifically of Black women, motivated you as you pursue your passion of becoming a doctor?
It's a great question. I think that it really helps me remember that my journey and my experiences are bigger than me. It just motivates me to continue to follow my trajectory to serve the future patients that I will serve. Because for people who don't know, for patients, the more they're able to identify with their doctor, the more they're likely to adhere to their treatment plans and follow their medication and things of that nature. So I think refocusing back to my main point in wanting to serve underserved communities and wanting to be in communities of color, I think that on the overall being in those communities and having people be able to identify with me, having, maybe if I'm a pediatrician, I don't know, having young like kids that look like me and see me treat them will help them just think, wow, like maybe I can do that too. But then also just see and, be able to have some trust in the medical field, because also I feel like I'm giving a little history lesson, but just the, history and the gruesome history and the history of experimentation on Black people in medicine is something that, if you ask I would probably willing to bet any like Black person. There's just a little bit distrust in the medical field in terms of like complete trust and just doing things because your doctor says so, because of that history. So I think that just really doing it for my future patients, but also for my family and friends because of that distrust. And then also just for others that, are following a similar path as me. I'm kind of putting him on the spot, but Kofi is also pre-med and he's applying to medical school soon. So just being able to interact with him and interact with other pre-med students and help them, and share my experiences along the way that I experienced at Oberlin to help make their journey easier is something that just means a lot to me. So I do the journey for me, but I also do it for, everyone else around me.
Cheyenne won't mention this, but when I was making my schedule for senior year to graduate, I built my schedule based off what Cheyenne shared with me. So that just goes to show that she was on the way out and sent over the course format outline. It definitely gave me the chills, but hey, it helped. So thank you, Cheyenne.
Awesome. Really, the Black Student Athlete Group has been instrumental, in positively impacting our athletic department and our entire campus community as we strive to make our community and beyond a safe, equitable, and inclusive place for all. And I know we've already talked about some of the future plans and stuff, but I guess future plans, initiatives, events that you're most excited about. Would love for you guys to kind of hit on those again, or do any outreach now. If you need anybody to help you with any of those, we'd love to do that. Cheyenne came off mute, so I don't know, Cheyenne. I saw you come off mute, so I'm going to you.
Okay, that's fine. I thought Anna was gonna go first, but it's okay. I think for me, one of the most things that I'm looking forward to is just seeing how the Black Student Athlete Group continues to progress. I think there's been so many gains moving forward already in a short period of time, especially in the midst of a pandemic. So much tension in the country. I think just seeing how everything's been done so eloquently is amazing. I'm also looking forward to more networking events to help other pre-meds and share my experiences with others, and just to also connect with other Oberlin College alumni, which is definitely a strong alumni base, the best one, should I say.
All right. Yeah, so I'm definitely excited. There are some things that are coming out. I kind of touched on them a little bit, talking about the, responding to microaggressions kind of trainings, but also just working on making people feel included. And that's up to the coaches. Not all of our coaches come from Oberlin. Not all of our coaches have the same kind of experience or understanding of things like that. So making sure that they're all on the same page, and also able to continue those conversations actually with their athletes. And so that's something that we're really pushing for. Some coaches are more comfortable than others, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure these important conversations are happening. And I will say that they are putting in the work to have those things start to happen. So I'm really just looking forward to continuing to follow the guidance of the Black Student Athlete Group, Kofi and Malika and all of them. They have amazing ideas. So I'm just there to assist them in any way, make sure that any needs that they're having that aren't met are being met, and to just, work as someone who is listening to them versus telling them what to do or to implement my own type of things. I really do want this position to continue being collaborative and supportive, because at the end of the day, the students are the ones experiencing it, and they're also the ones who are going to be able to make the biggest impact with the help of administration of Natalie and me and everybody else. So just looking forward to supporting them in all of their endeavors, whatever it is that they'd like to do.
Yeah, and I think that Anna mentioned where it's the most important part is the students in our group. So I think moving forward, what I'm most excited about is just finding more ways for us to connect within the group. Because I think that, we've done a lot of outreach and we've done a whole bunch of stuff, which we're continuing to do, with having this next panel, obviously looking into more alumni events to connect and, have alumni come and meet our group and vice versa. But I think the biggest part is just continuing to establish our community within, continuing to meet the people that are already here, especially I'm thinking of the first year students too, that this is their first year. So they walked right into this. So it's continuing to make people feel comfortable, continuing to make people feel like they have a voice and that they have a place where they can come talk. And then also to continue to reach out and show, people that may be coming in, whether it's recruits that have already committed or people that are looking at Oberlin like, hey, if you come, you're going to be supported. If you come to the school, you won't have to go through what maybe some other people have gone through, where like they didn't feel like they were heard, or they didn't feel like there was people that were there for them, or they didn't feel like the department had their back, stuff like that. So the biggest thing for me is just trying to fight that mentality, like, oh, like, our department isn't here for us, or like they don't want what's best for us, whatever it is, because now we're in the room. I think that's the biggest difference, right? In the past, I might have been like, oh, I don't know what's going on, whatever. Like now I'm in the room with Natalie, Coach App, Coach Dunmeyer. So I can see that they want what's best for us. I can see that they're trying to do their best to support us and do what it takes to really, have our back. So that's what I want other people to realize as well, right? Like whether you're in the room physically or I guess virtually or not, like there are people that really do want the best for you and that want you to have the best experience possible, like with or without competition, with or without, the typical things that come in a year. So I'm just looking forward to us continuing to, build upon that connection and build upon that collaboration with the department. Because that's what it's all about, just feeling heard and feeling supported.
Definitely. We'd love to open it up now for any questions from our attendees. So you could either use the raise your hand function, or you could just unmute, raise your hand, wave at us, start talking, whatever you feel is good. Craig might call on you. We're free for whatever. It is what it is. I'm not the first person to get it, but I still wanted to throw it in there. Thank you very much. We had a competition going for anybody that wasn't here. All right, Larry.
Yeah, I want to first say hi to my friend Marty Dugan, who I haven't seen in a while. I think we're the oldest guys on the call, Marty. Back in the day, and Marty was on the championship Ohio Conference basketball team that I constantly talk about in 1970. And I did my best as the play-by-play announcer. I was wondering if, back then, successful teams in particular, but sports in general, did have a uniting effect between the Black and the white communities at Oberlin, particularly when the teams won and particularly when it was a major sport like that. But still, I was wondering if that is the case today, and the extent to which people who are athletes at Oberlin are still, considered to be unusual, and have to say, why did you go to Oberlin if you wanted to play sports at a high level? So I'm there's a gap in my knowledge, 50 years, and I was hoping some of you might be able to fill that in a little bit.
I can answer, the admission style. Obviously, I think that the thing about Oberlin students is that they are truly unique. Our athletes that come here, they're not coming here because they just want to play a sport or they just want to do this. They truly do. They want to go on and be a doctor. They want to go and inspire other people. They want to have those options to do a lot of different things. So when you're looking at our facility, Natalie has done a wonderful job at having lots of money for us to put into our facilities. So the things that we have at Oberlin, everything that's here is here for you to be able to be the best athlete that you can be while getting a really, really strong education. And I think a lot of the conversations I do have with athletes who are at that higher level, it's about what can you get out of your education and what can Oberlin do for you as an athlete. And I think we have a lot to offer on both sides. For me, I was, I thought I wanted to do like D1 type of things. I was at that level, but when Oberlin reached out to me and I got to visit, I realized I could be just as good at Oberlin as I could be anywhere else, but I could also get an education that's going to stick with me, have a really, really strong alumni network while building this kind of community. So I would say that maybe at a glance, you might think, oh, D3, but Oberlin, we have amazing facilities. Like I would put it against most other D3s in general. So I think it's not a hard choice to pick between like, do I just want to, if you're a person who just wants to do athletics, like Oberlin's not the place for you. Like I'll say that 100%. If you're just here to be a jock, like it's probably not going to work out because of the rigor that we have too. I don't know if Kofi or Cheyenne want to add in on that as being athletes who decided to pick Oberlin, et cetera.
I think I'll go real quick. I agree 100% with Anna said. And then I'll share too, like on my interview trail for medical school, I had a lot of interviewers tell me like, wow, you went to Oberlin and played basketball? Like, wow, like that's amazing. I think just because of what Anna mentioned, the rigor, and then also how Oberlin's multifaceted in terms of how you can excel in athletics and academics is something that is truly like one of a kind. And I know that for me, when picking the school that I wanted to go to, that was something important, the pre-med, the education, but also having the ability to play the sport that I love. So I think Anna hit the nail right on the head.
Yeah, I think to add, just in terms of even like team dynamics and everything, I know for me, like Oberlin was the only school I was looking at for athletics. Like I had no plans of continuing track and field. Like I was ready to retire, hang up the cleats, whatever. Coming to Oberlin, like I think it's been great for a bunch of different reasons, right? One, as Anna and Cheyenne have mentioned, like I'm getting the best academic and athletic experience like at the same time. Two, I think that just competitively, like I'm competing at a level that I would have never thought that I could have, like the things that I've been able to accomplish and do, like I credit, the team and honestly speaking, like all the aspects of just competition and the people that I'm around, whatever it is. But this year, especially what I'll say is that, even being like, a Black man on the track and field team, like I never necessarily feel like an outsider, or like the people that I compete with, like on my team, it's like, regardless of race, gender, whatever it is, like I know that we have a community. This year, I've been able to even grow and even closer with, people that I compete with on a daily basis, like not even having that now, So I think that also coming to Oberlin, it's like you meet people that you might have never thought you would have, been teammates with or been friends with, whatever it is. But because of that, like shared space and, that shared goal of like just trying to get better athletically and, competitively, whatever it is, you also meet people that are going to be like your friends for life. I can name like a solid 2 guys already on my track team that I know are going to be like groomsmen for me. Like Anna and Shai could hold me to it. Like we can make a bet. Like I already know like they're going to be there. So it's just, you kind of see that as time goes on, like having those experiences and being on that team, like it's bigger than just, competing. Like you actually have friends for life and people that, you can continue to lean on. And that's also off your team as well. Like Shai said it earlier, but I still talk to her, asking her like, hey, how are things with med school? Like, give me this tip, say this, do that. So it ranges across the board.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Have you found a wife or just the groomsmen?
Just the groomsmen. Just the groomsmen.
I have a question. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
I'm Greg Shepard, class of 1964, and I was co-captain of our football team. But one interesting thing that I've run across in my life fairly recently is that I traveled to Nigeria, which is the largest country in Africa, and I have over 200 million in population. It's very large geographically. And with the business I was doing over there, I was made an honorary chief of the Igbo tribe, IGBO. And it's the largest tribe in Nigeria, but it also extends to Ghana. But athletic wise, there are 24 Nigerians in the NFL playing pro football right now, and 10 from Ghana, and almost all of them are from the Igbo tribe. And I just wondered if there's anything that recruiting wise that Oberlin could do to tap into that incredible resource. The Igbo tribe people are amazing people. They're very, very smart. They're athletically gifted, and most of them are very large people, and they would be a wonderful addition to Oberlin, not only athletically but academically. I don't know how we could. Is there maybe a way we could? I always thought if we could tap into that, if I were a college football coach, I would be tapping into that one. Because it's a wonderful resource. They're fantastic people, by the way.
And I can kind of talk from the admissions standpoint. On our international side, we do have some athletes that are recruited internationally and things like that. But obviously, it is more difficult to get into Oberlin as an international student in general. We do have some students who show interest in us, and definitely if we have a student who shows interest, who has the right profile, who wants to come to Oberlin, we're definitely going to pursue that. But I will say, in general, we don't have a lot of athletes who are at that position of being like NFL level, who are going to come to Oberlin from across the waters just to play a sport here. I will say that we do recruit internationally. We do have a good amount of students from all over the place. It's around 12% of the whole student body. But it is just a little bit harder. Recruiting in general, all of our coaches can probably attest, it's hard to get students in general. So the folks that they talk to in the United States definitely have a higher yield, and you have a better connection to those students as well. So, but thank you for.
Yeah, but there are colleges like North Carolina State, for example, had just on this year's team, had 4 Nigerians from the Igbo tribe on their team. And all of them are going to the NFL. And these great number of players that are in the NFL, and of course, Oberlin's not an NFL hotbed of recruit, but I think there's some, all these players went to colleges in the United States. And then from there, they launched from there to have their careers, not only in the NFL, but other places. A good friend of mine is an Igbo tribe, and he is the assistant mayor of the city of Newark, New Jersey. So they're very active, and I just thought maybe keep your eye open, and if there's somebody from Nigeria or Ghana, Coach O knows me very well. I'd be glad to lend assistance and try to get some kind of a connection there, because once you start the connection, it can multiply. All right, that's my piece.
I'll put Steve-O on a plane. He's a go-getter. No, we have
I would also like NC State's athletics budget for us to be able to travel internationally. So until we can master the United States recruiting, we'll stay here. But thank you, Greg. I do appreciate that. Was a fun lesson for me. So thank you.
We've got time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. If anybody else has any more questions for the panel. May have covered it all. You guys may have covered it all. We had a rock star panel. So huge shout out to Anna, Kofi, and Cheyenne. Thank you so much for your time today and for coming and just all of the information was awesome. Hopefully everybody felt like they learned a lot. If you guys do have anything that comes up question wise, I'm sure panelists, you'd be willing for me to still throw out questions and get answers from you if you needed, but I'll turn it back over to Natalie.
Stephanie, can I jump in real quick?
Oh yeah, absolutely, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa Tour, Director of Annual Giving at Oberlin. I'm really excited to hear about this work on microaggressions and was curious. I think I hope that this is a plan for the entire campus, but also for our alumni community. So much can be learned about how we interact with people. And I was just curious if you could talk a little bit more about that. Thank you. And thank you for all your work. I've been able to interact with BSAG a bit, and oh my gosh, all of those student athletes, amazing.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So this is something that we've been working with in collaboration with Becky Mosley in the Title IX office. So she actually has already done one for faculty working with students. So we're just working on trying to adapt it for coaches and for the students as well. So that'll be probably coming out before the end of the semester. But obviously I think Becky would be happy to keep expanding that once we have the structure of what works well and how we can be most effective with it. So there'll be more information with that. Thank you.
All right, folks, we are coming to the close of the Coffee House Zoom room this morning, but I do just want to thank Anna, Kofi, and Cheyenne and Malika, who's not here, but this has been some of the most uncomfortable, meaningful work that I have been able to take part in. And it is truly moving. And I think that part of our goal is to make sure that, this isn't just 1 year of work. This is not a moment, this is a movement of work. And, we're going to engage, educate, and we're going to have a lot of action. And, this is another moment for Oberlin College athletics to really make a stamp and lead the way in college athletics. I can't think of too many other people right now across the country that are gathering and having this conversation. Everyone else is still trying to figure out how to play sports, and in a pandemic, of course, that would be a nice problem to have, but that's alas not our destiny. So we're making the best of the time we have together, and and making really impactful, meaningful work. And again, this is incredibly special. I can't count the number of times I had goosebumps hearing you all talk this morning. So thank you all for showing up and being with us. Again, February 17th, another night of conversation with the WNBA in Oberlin. What a great collaboration there. Who knew? But thanks again, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.